Okay, hello and welcome to part 2 of the Google Sheets tutorial number 1. I broke this one into 2 parts because it's kind of longish and there's a little bit of work and you might want to take a break between the two. So I created a logical point at the beginning of the tutorial and it's actually split into 2 pages in the textbook. So I'm going to open that up in another window. So you'll notice in the table of contents, tutorial 1.1 is here, 1.2 is here. So this is 1.2. So we need to talk about formulas. This is one of the most important things about spreadsheets, is being able to work with math, being able to do math inside of a spreadsheet. This is kind of a spreadsheet's primary job, really, is to make sure that we can do math in a way that is logical and makes sense and is going to make our lives easier. Because doing math is sometimes a tedious activity, and it's not necessarily it's not something we want to do a lot of because it's tedious and it's error prone. So we don't want to have to do things over and over again. So, okay, so there are rules when it comes to doing math in a spreadsheet. So the first rule is every formula must start with an equal sign. Think of that as sort of like a way of saying, hey, in this cell, math is happening. Then each formula after that has to consist of some combination of numbers, cell references. Formulas can let's just go to whiteboard. So rule number 1, the equal sign. That's your primary way of informing Excel that there's going to be some math. 2, you need to have some combination of numbers, operators, and cell references. And I'll explain all of that as we kind of move along here. Rule number 3 is formulas can contain all of the basic arithmetic operators. So that includes plus, minus, multiplication, division, and exponentiation. So like 2 squared. We don't use these symbols. We use some slightly different ones, and I'll show you guys those in a minute. But those are the operators. Rule number 4 is that it does, in fact, follow the order of operations that you learned in high school. So please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parentheses, exponents, and multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. So all of those operations are all completely legal. Does my delete all there? No, that's not what it is. Delete all. There we go. So the operators go like this. So they're basically the ones that. So some of them are the same as you would normally remember. So adding and subtracting. Adding is the plus sign. Subtracting is the minus sign. Multiplication, however, there's no convenient symbol on the keyboard to do multiplication. So we don't use an X and we don't use a dot. And you have to explicitly have your operator, so you can't smush a number up to the parentheses and think that it's going to be multiplication. So the explicit operator for multiplication is the asterisk. So this is kind of common in all of computing, and programming languages use an asterisk. Division, I can't remember what the symbol for division is called, that little line with the 2 dots. We don't use that either, so we just use a / because it's convenient. It's on the keyboard and it's right there. If you have a keyboard with a number pad, you'll see the 4 main operators right there. The other one is exponentiation. So this is, say, when I take a number and raise it to some power. So 3 squared is the same as 3 times 3, which is 9. So 3 squared is 9. And so it's just repeated multiplication. We can't do this in our spreadsheet, so we use a symbol. So we use the little up caret. So this right here becomes 3 up caret 2. So the caret symbol is on the 6 on the keyboard. So you hit Shift, hold Shift, and hit the number 6, and that's your caret. And so this means 3 to the second power. So that's how you do powers. That's how you these are your main symbols for doing basic mathematical operations. Now for parentheses, for grouping, you just use parentheses. No other symbols are allowed. You can just use parentheses. You can nest them inside of each other. So sometimes if you have really complicated functions and things like that, you might have lots of parentheses nesting within each other, and that's totally cool. So let's get rid of that, and in fact close out. If I remember how to do that, get rid of my open board, quit. Yeah, there we go. So to that end, let's take a look. Let's go to Sheets, sheets.google.com. Let's just open up a blank one real quick, and I'm going to split my screen here. Just for practice sake, let's look at these and try to recreate these in Excel. So let's make this huge, and let's make it even huger, say 200%. Okay. So say I wanted to recreate this right here. Now this expression is 6 plus 7 times 8. So 7 times 8 is what's going to happen first. The multiplication always has priority over addition. So it should be 7 times 8, which is 56, plus 6, which is 62, if my math is right. So what are our rules? Our rules are always, always, always start with an equal sign. If you're going to do math, you want to start with an equal sign. Then we'll do 6 plus 7 times, use the asterisk symbol, and then 8. And that should be 62. You'll see the answer kind of pop up here, and that's right. And we hit enter. So that's what appears here. So you'll notice this is the result, and in the formula bar you still have the actual formula. So here we'll do 16 divided by 8, which should be 2, minus 2, which should be 0. So we go 16 / 8 for division, and then minus 2. 0. And here we have 25 minus 11 times 3. Here, normally multiplication has priority over subtraction, but this is in parentheses, so this has to happen first. So, again, equal sign, left parentheses, 25 minus 11, and then multiply by 3. And you should get 42. So that's basically how it works. The other thing that you can have inside of formulas is cell references. This is where I can actually do math. Let's say I want to add these two cells together, 62 and 42. I would start with an equal sign, and then I can either type in like A1 to create a reference to this cell, or hit plus. I can click on the cell that I want to use, and then it'll automatically put that reference in, and it'll give me my result. This has the cool advantage of making the data inside that cell dynamic. If this number changes to, say, 85, then the result in this cell changes as well. If I change this to 1, it becomes 86. So that's kind of the rough way of how it all works. That's how we put it all together. And basic arithmetic operations are pretty straightforward. They're not really super difficult to do. You just have to remember the basic syntax and the basic rules for doing those mathematical operations. So what I'm going to do is we're going to continue working on our file before, the packing slip. So I have it open here, and there is our packing slip in the condition that it was when we left it. And so this is what we're going to do. What we need to do is add a column here for cost. So I'm going to put my tablet away, and let's call this column cost. So what operation are we trying to accomplish here? We have an item that costs $12.45 per, and we're ordering 4 of them, so I need to do some sort of operation here. Now, if you take a second to think about it, I'm sure most of us will remember that this is a multiplication operation, and here's how it's done. You hit the equal sign. Let's make this bigger. Let's make this, say, 200%. So in here, we hit equal sign, and we just click on these cells. The tutorial in the text says to type it, but I'm not going to. I'm going to click on the price, and I'm going to hit multiple asterisk to multiply, and then I'm going to click on the quantity, and then it's going to give me my result. And notice that it automatically detects that this is going to be in the money format, because this one's in the money format. So it's going to create this one as a currency as well. Next, we want to fill in this column. The last thing you want to do is do something more than once. So I'm not asking you to go equals this times this and equals this times this. I'm actually going to have you copy and paste this. You can actually go up here, hit edit, hit copy, click down here, hit edit, hit paste, and what's interesting is that it didn't just copy the end result. The number is not the same. It didn't copy the formula exactly. What it did is it used those references relative to the original cell. These are what are called relative references. So if you think of it this way, Sheets thinks what this cell is actually doing is multiplying these two cells to its left. So when I copy and paste it down, that cell is going to do the same thing. It's going to multiply the two cells to its left. The practical upshot of it is that it just increments the row number in these cell references. So the 11 becomes a 12. And that's it. That's basically the gist of it. By the way, to switch to formula view, you can hold down the control key and hit the tilde key. And that just switches back and forth between the two. Now there's another way to do this even quicker. So, I mean, I could copy and paste this all the way down. But what I want to do instead is show you this little tool right here. This little widget on the bottom right corner of your cell selector is called the fill handle. And it has a lot of interesting behaviors when you get into kind of more advanced work. But for now, let's just observe what happens if I click on it and drag it down. So I'm dragging it down to fill in the rest of this thing. When I release the mouse, it has the exact same effect as copying and pasting the whole column. So the fill handle does a lot of other things. And notice how these row numbers increment in each one of these cells. The fill handle does a lot of other things, but for now this is all we need to worry about. So let's do another formula. Let's add it all up. And we're going to do this in a slightly different way. So in this cell, we're going to put subtotal. So right underneath, we're going to have like our little totals information down here in this little block of cells. So we want to subtotal all this up. You could do something like equals this plus this plus this plus this plus this, which is fine, but it is an operation that has some error to it. It'll give you the right answer for now, but if I wanted to say add another row or something like that, it wouldn't do it correctly. So instead, we're going to use a tool called the function tool up here. So we're going to select all the cells that we want to add together. So this one through this one. We're going to hit this little sigma button up here that says functions underneath it. Click on it and then hit sum and watch what happens. It automatically, in the cell underneath those, so cell G16, creates this sum function. So this is a little different than a regular formula in that it's like a function is like a named computer program. It's like running a little computer program inside of Excel. So it calls this sum function and says, what does the sum function do? Well, it takes whatever's inside here and adds it all together. So in our case, we don't do ranges with a dash like G11 through G15. We do it with a colon because a dash means subtraction. So we have to use something else. So colon is what people have decided we're going to use in our spreadsheets. So it's saying sum the cells G11 through G15. So we stick that between these two parentheses, and then presumably it's going to spit out the correct result, which is 636.69. Hit enter, and that is the result. So this is kind of that's kind of one of the quick ways to, with very reliably and with little chance of error, add together a bunch of cells. And this is going to be a very common operation. Next thing I want to do is do sales tax. Okay, so I'm going to make This is in the tutorial. I'm going to make row 10 a little bit bigger, just so that we can offset what we're going to do here. So the next thing I want to do is add a sales tax option up here. So we're going to say in cell F9, we're going to say sales tax, and then right next to it in G9, we're going to say 5%. If I put 5, any number followed by percent sign, what it will end up doing is replacing this with the actual 5%. So it'll treat this as if it's 0.05, which is exactly what we would want. So it'll treat it as a percentage. So when I come down here and say taxes, and I hit equals, and multiply this number, the subtotal, by 5%, I should get 5% of 639, which is $31.83. Now, why do this? Why not just hard code in? Why not just say G16 times 0.05? Well, if the city council decides to pass an ordinance saying we're going to raise taxes by 2% to build a new elementary school or something, I don't have to go back and find all those errors. I can just go grab this cell and change it to 7% instead. And boom, the taxes go up automatically. I only have to change this one cell, and then my spreadsheet is still usable. So it's kind of handy. For fun, we're going to add a shipping line. And we're just going to say it's $45. I'm going to say $45.00. Hit enter. Now we want to have a grand total. Now, there's a couple ways we could do this. You could do the auto sum tool. You could add them all together. And in this case, it might not be a terrible thing to do. It's not super problematic. But let's try typing in that function ourselves. So you start, again, with an equal sign. Always start with the equal sign. Type the word sum, and you notice a bunch of possible functions will pop up. These are all little mini computer programs that you can run inside of a cell. We just want the sum one. And then a left parentheses. And then, go away. Get out of here. And then we're going to select the 3 cells that we want to add together. And then finally close it with a right parentheses and hit enter. And there is our total. So, pretty neat. Now, what if we look over at the order and, oh no, they ordered something else, some other item, and I forgot to include it in here. Well, check it out. What we're going to do is we're going to insert a row, and we're going to insert it right in the middle. So we're going to select the entire row. We don't select one cell and insert it because, oh, wow, I didn't know that Google Sheets would do that. That is really cool. Excel won't do this automatically. Sheets did. It automatically, normally you'd have to like select an entire row, hit insert, and then select row below, and then it would push the whole table down a little bit. Sheets automatically realized that I was about to violate the integrity of my table and just pushed everything down, which is really, really slick, and I didn't know that it did that. So you learn things in real time, which is neat. So we're going to add this one in. I'll do this in real time. I won't speed it up because I can type pretty fast. This is in the text. You may have to look it up or copy it off the video once I'm done typing. Notice it automatically detected that this is currency, quantity of 5. And in here, we'll just click on the cell above it, drag that fill handle down, and when I let go, watch the subtotal and the total and the taxes all automatically increment. If you'll notice, this thing is now adding all of these cells together and not just the original one. So it's real neat. It's real slick. Very handy. Automatically kind of like predicts what it is you're trying to do in certain circumstances as long as you work within those parameters. So that's it for that. Let's add some other little finishing touches. So we want to add the name of the company up here. And again, let's see what happens if I do this. Insert row below. Yeah, insert row above. Insert row above. And it pushed everything down. See, what Excel would do is it would just push this column down, and then it would make it so that your table would be off kilter. So that was really neat. I like that. Normally, you'd have to select the whole row and then hit insert above, and then it did it. So anyway, that's pretty awesome. Oh, I see. So if you hit row above, it inserts an entire row. And if you hit one of these, it'll shift just that column down, which is not what we want. So this is cool. This is nice. This is a nice little feature. And maybe Excel does have that, but I don't usually. So we'll. I don't know. I haven't looked into it. So we'll add the name of the company here, and then we'll make that a little bit bigger. Let's say 24. That's what the tutorial says. So nice little finishing touch. Make it so that the my phone's ringing. We'll go zoom out a little bit. Make it so that people know what this shipping label is for. Let's add some borders, because right now if you try to print this, it won't print any of these lines. These lines are just imaginary. They're not actually there. So we'll select this stuff, and the border tool's right here. So we'll grab that border, and we'll add a border here, and we'll add a borders around all this, just where there's content. Don't put them on everything. Borders here, borders here, borders here. Okay. And that is about it. So a couple last things I want to show you. If you don't have formulas in here, in these cells, if these are just the numbers, I'm going to be checking that, and that's one way that people get docked a point. This is pretty much, this column right here is the most important, most important part of this tutorial. Yeah, if you make a little mistake, just Control-Z undoes the last thing that you did. It's the best tool in the world. If you don't do these, this is where you'll lose a point on the tutorials. Tutorials are worth 3 points. This one's no different. So, you will lose that 1 point if these are not tutorial, or if these are not formulas. So let's check this out. Let's see what this would look like if we were going to print it and put it in a box. So if you hit File and go down to Print, one thing I liked about Google Sheets was it automatically set like the kind of page layout to landscape. So like if you have a piece of paper like this, you want it rotated like this because the data here is kind of like sideways. It's horizontally oriented, and so it will it automatically detects the best orientation for this text to be on, and then it has the little borders. And I guess it does show the imaginary borders too in the print preview, which is kind of interesting. But this is what the print preview will look like. Don't actually print it. You don't need to. There's no way for you to submit a paper copy to me anyway. So that's it. Once you get to here, we will make sure this is in a logical formula. We'll put it just in our ITECH 100 folder. Dang it. Move to, I guess it's already in my ITECH 100 folder. So packing slip. So you'll submit it. Google Drive. And find our ITECH 100 and look for the packing slip. There it is. Link. And submit. And that should be it. That's all you got to do. I hope you've enjoyed this, and we'll see you in the next tutorial.